whatever it is for you, what is your biggest moneymaker? You need to look at that and determine, okay, so if this is true, am I spending enough time promoting my biggest moneymaker, working on my biggest moneymaker?
All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
Hey, it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. Today, I'm going to walk you through how to assess your year. I have done many episodes like this over the years, and we will link in the show notes some of the previous episodes I've recorded with very specific ways to review your year as a business owner so that you guys can dive in and do more of that nitty-gritty. But what I really want to focus on today are just the needle movers, because there is so much you can do financially to review, profit margins to review, and all that jazz. But today I want us to focus on you, your business, 2024, and let's dive into how to assess what worked, what didn't, and what we're going to do moving into 2025. I was recently in Nashville doing a mastermind, and the second day of a 2-day event was actually just dedicated to us planning out our year. At first I thought, oh my gosh, I've already started to do this. Like, ugh, do I really need to do this? I roll. But actually it was my favorite day of the mastermind because it really forced us to sit down, pen to paper, and she gave us time to think, review, answer the questions, and really get some clarity moving forward. So I'm going to take some of what I learned from Amy Porterfield at my mastermind. I'm going to share it with you today. I'm also going to take some of the exercises that I have done inside my business over the years, professionally and personally, and I'm going to share that with you today. So if you have a pen and paper, you're going to really love this. If you don't, you can come back to this episode if you're driving, if you're out for a walk. But I do believe what I'm going to teach you today, because this is going to be a bit of a teaching episode, is going to hopefully cause you to go home and do some homework. Sit down and actually do the work. Get a journal. Really think about what you're going to do. And then in 2025, that first week of January, we're coming back with a brand new season of this podcast and a really great episode to help you plan for the year ahead. But right now, I just want you to look back. Here's what I want you to do. No matter if you totally crushed your goals this year, or you barely made it through and you're struggling to find clients, or maybe if you landed somewhere in between, there are lessons that you can learn from all of it. So I want to take a step back before we can move forward. I really do encourage you to take some quality time to reflect on the questions I'm going to ask you. If you feel like you want to skip one of the questions and you don't feel like you need to respond to it, I feel like there's something there. There might be an opportunity for growth there. And I'm going to encourage you to just still sit with that. Write something down, even if it's not perfect. Remember, it's always progress over perfection. And part of the point of this whole exercise is getting a little uncomfortable, looking at the things that maybe you'd rather brush under the rug. And the only thing waiting for you on the other side is greatness. So if this is the only time you're doing this, let's do it and make it count. If you've done this already, let's make this the last time that you're looking back so we can move forward. I also don't want you dwelling on things that maybe didn't go so well, but we do need to look at them for learning lessons, because I also want you to make a commitment. If you are going through these questions and you're like, oh shoot, Rebecca, I don't actually know those numbers, or I don't actually do that, or I don't actually keep track of my meetings, or whatever it might be, then maybe this is your reminder, your note, or your lesson to start doing some of these to keep better records moving forward, so that next year when we do this exercise, you've got everything at your fingertips. So there are 3 important questions. Well, actually, there's more than 3 questions. Okay, there's a few questions. that I want you to answer before you can even think about planning for the year ahead. First question: what was your favorite business experience in 2024? What did you do in your business that you loved? Was it a project? Was it a client? Was it that you for the first time decorated? Maybe for the first time you did wallpaper. Maybe you spoke on stage. Maybe you were a guest on a podcast. Maybe you took a course and it gave you a million aha moments. Maybe you invested in yourself and you joined a mastermind. Maybe you invested in your business and hired someone to help you. Take a minute and think, what was your favorite business experience in 2024? When I did this exercise, I had to look at my calendar. And this is what I'm going to encourage you to do now, because what's going to happen is if you just sit there and you think, you might miss something without realizing it. So I keep a very diligent Google Calendar. I've shared this before. Maybe I've shared this in here, Designer's Room, Lord knows, Instagram. But I believe you should keep a diligent record of what you do in your calendar. I use Google Calendar. I use it to put meetings in the calendar so I know what's coming up. But every day I go back and I shift the events in my calendar for that day based on actually what I did and actually the amount of time things took. So for example, a couple days ago, I was supposed to record this podcast episode and I didn't. Instead, I did a few other things. So what I did is I moved the time block I had to record this episode. I moved it over to another day. But then I created time blocks or events in that day in my Google Calendar for the things that I actually did. Like I had a phone call with a client. I ended up doing some emails and administration. I ended up having to record some video for Facebook ads for our Black Friday sale. So I put that in the calendar. The reason I do this is because it's the only way you can look back at the end of the year, or the end of the month, or the end of the week, whatever you want to do, whatever your cadence would be, and see how you spent your time. We have such an inflated sense of what we spend our time on and where our efforts are going that sometimes when we look back, we see that, most of our time is spent doing things that aren't either moving the needle or don't light us up. So I'm going to encourage you for this first question, and then you're going to use this calendar for all of these questions, actually, not just for this one question, but I'm going to encourage you, and if you hear papers moving around, it's because I have my notes in front of me, but I want you to look at your calendar, go back to January 1 and go through week by week and just look. Was there anything in there? Maybe you forgot. Maybe you forgot that you, went on a trip somewhere. Heck, I've done that. I was like, oh yeah, I went to Costa Rica this year. Shoot, that was fun. Go back through your calendar and then write down, and it can be more than one thing. I had a bunch of things written on a piece of paper. What were your favorite business experiences in 2024? For me, I made a note that the things that actually were my favorite this year were all the things I did in person. My IDS meetup that I did with interior designers at the Toronto Interior Design Show, my panel that I did at High Point Market. Other things for me were working with a coach one-on-one, the mastermind that I signed up for, taking a course, connecting in real life with designers at High Point Market, coaching designers one-on-one. A lot of what I put as my favorite work experiences were actually just me connecting with other people. And a lot of it was in real life. So once you've put down what were your favorite business experiences, there might be a theme, there might not, there could be a few outliers, that is fine. Question number 2, what felt easy? What felt easy? Of everything you did this year, what felt easy? You know the things that felt hard. I'm not asking that question. I can tell you one of the things that I'll never forget that was so freaking hard was setting up ManyChat for my Instagram. I did it myself. I should never have done it myself. It took hours and hours and hours of my time. It felt hard. It felt challenging. Yeah, sure, it was rewarding, but I did not need to do that again. I'm not talking about those things, the things that felt hard, the projects that didn't go the way you wanted to, or whatever, having to fire an employee or trying to find the right person. Don't think about those things. What felt easy? These are going to be the things that you're going to want to repeat. That's question 2. And then yes, question 3 is what felt hard. Interestingly enough, when I did this exercise, I could think of a lot of things that felt hard, but I had a hard time thinking about the things that felt easy. It might be, oh, wow, that was so much easier executing that project with a project manager. Or, oh, I started collecting money for consultations and it felt effortless. What felt easy and what felt hard? Okay, those are your first 3 questions. If we were doing this in Designer's Room, which we will be doing actually in December, I will be hosting a workshop in Designer's Room where we're going to workshop reviewing your year in detail and planning ahead for 2025. And we're going to start the formulations of a marketing plan. And that's really where we're going to be going. So if this was done in person, I would actually give you the time and space to put your answers down, but you can just pause this podcast, write your answers, and then keep playing. I think that's probably the best way. So we're not sitting here in silence together while you're driving the car. Question number 4. What did you love putting into the world or creating or working on? For me, it was the panel at High Point Market. It was doing the meetup. It was booking the one-on-one clients. What did you love creating, working on, or putting into the world? For me, it's also creating courses, working on a new offer. Could it be for you something to do with a project? Could it be something to do, maybe your office, you set up a studio? Could it be teams? Could it be connecting with other designers? But what did you love creating, working on, or putting into the world? And then last question number 5 is, what do you never want to do again? This is a question that I've asked every year. I used to do an exercise that I learned from Rachel Hollis, which was basically, it was like this. And I share it in the previous podcast episodes that are linked in the show notes. But you need to pay attention to what do you never want to do again and create a list. The thing I wrote down is set up ManyChat. But in the past, it was things like, I never want to do again so many lunch and learns at my office. Feels like a waste of time. I'm paying my team for them. We don't end up using the products. No. Or things I never want to do again was unpaid consultations or condo projects. What is it for you that you never want to do again? Okay, those are the first 5 questions. And you're going to want to take some time, write these out, journal them out. You can put them in a spreadsheet or whatever, a Google Doc. But once you've written them out, I want you to reflect and look at your calendar and really think about, of all of this information that you've put down on the paper, how much of the stuff that you loved working on, that lit you up, that was your favorite, what % of those are in your calendar? And what % of the hard stuff or the things you don't want to repeat are in your calendar? My guess is that for many of you, you'll find that the things that you really lit you up, that you loved working on, actually weren't the bulk of your calendar. And that's what I discovered. And that's why I'm making some major changes moving into 2025, because I want to do more of what lights me up. I want to do more of what makes money. And we're going to get to that. I want to do more of the things that make me want to get out of bed in the morning, not hop out of bed, run and pick something up, get into an email frenzy where I can't feel like I can't catch up on my inbox. And then, oh my God, pick up the kids. And that was my day. Like, I don't want that. So really give yourself some time to do this exercise. And then once you've done that and you're starting to get a clearer sense of, okay, here's what I'm enjoying, here's what I didn't like. Now we need to look at the financial part of it. And I'm not going to go into serious depth here because I've done this before and we're going to do this in Designer's Room, but I want to just give you a bit of a tip of the iceberg so you can understand where you need to look. First of all, how much money did you make in 2024? And I realize the year's not over. Just do year to date. If you're using QuickBooks, you can quickly pull up a report. Or if you use Design Docs, you can do that there too, or any program like that. If you use Excel, it's a little harder, but unless you're really good at Excel and you know how to track those things, how much money did you bring in? Top line, gross revenue. How much money did you bring in from products, from design services, from commissions, from whatever money came into your business, not what you paid yourself, what came into your business? How much was it? And then you need to look at, of all that money that came in from all the different avenues, what was your biggest money maker? This is important. What was your biggest money maker? And when I used to do this exercise with my team and we were really trying to figure out, where do we really want to emphasize with our design services? What was a big eye opener for me was that we actually made the bulk of our money in the implementation phase, when we resell products, furniture, items to clients, and when we manage it. And it wasn't in the actual design. It definitely wasn't in the consultations. And so whatever it is for you, what is your biggest moneymaker? You need to look at that and determine, okay, so if this is true, am I spending enough time promoting my biggest moneymaker, working on my biggest moneymaker, spending time on that? For us, it would be implementation. So what did it mean? It meant, okay, as we plan for the year ahead, let's look at our contract. Let's combine our contract from contracts that were individually designed per phase to make one contract for the entire kit and caboodle, because we don't want to do a project where we don't implement. Now, not to say that it hasn't happened, it has, but that was the goal. And we update the website to reflect and emphasize implementation. I updated my discovery call and how I talk about it so that we're promoting and attracting those clients. And then when I was in the projects, I was making sure I was pricing them accordingly to make sure that we were making money on that. All that to say, what is your biggest money maker? What is your biggest money maker? And then conversely, what made you the least amount of money? Or where did you lose money? It's okay. We've all done it. We're doing it. Every year there's an opportunity for me to learn. I lost money on that rug because I was trusting somebody to have a better attention to detail when they put the proposal together. I did not review it in detail, and we put the wrong number and we couldn't go back to the client, so we lost money. So what am I learning from that? Maybe it's not the right person in the role. Maybe I need a better system for reviewing proposals before they go to the client. What was your least moneymaker? Like, what made the least amount of money? And potentially, where did you lose money? Like, for me, one of the things that I realized as I was doing this is I really don't make any money on the podcast. I mean, it was never intended to be a moneymaker. I just really like it, and I like connecting with people, and I like sharing, and I love helping. But I have to pay a podcast editor and a podcast producer, and it costs a substantial amount of money for me, and plus my time, to do the podcast. And so for me this year, when I wrote this down, when we were at the mastermind in Nashville, I was like, okay, maybe I need to find some sponsors. So guys, if you hear this and you want to sponsor my podcast, or you know of a brand who you think would be a great fit for our podcast, who would be interested in sponsoring, please, send them my way. Because I realized I'm putting a lot of time into this one thing and it's not bringing in any money. So what is that for you? Okay, how are we feeling? I feel like I wish I could have you right here with me and it wasn't just me sitting in my car, which is what I am doing. I want you to think of those questions. And then once you've done that, I want you to really think about next year and think about, where are your clients coming from? What's bringing you the most leads? Who's driving that traffic? Really pay attention. You should be asking every single client where they came from, because you need to understand for your marketing. And that's something we're going to just dive into Designer's Room in December. That's going to help inform your marketing and where you spend your time in 2025. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. That was a doozy. Listen to it a few times. Make your notes. Let me know. Was there any aha that you got from this episode? Is there anything, once you've done it, assessed your calendar and you've looked at what's working and what's not, is there anything that really stood out to you that you didn't even think about? Or maybe there's something that your gut has sort of thought all along, but you just didn't want to admit it. The facts don't lie. Look at your calendar. You've got this. We're almost at the end of the year. Don't forget that the more we can spend time investing in our business and ourselves by listening to podcasts like this, doing the work, taking a course, or even being inside a community of other designers where you learn and see what they're doing, that for me was one of my biggest takeaways from 2024 is I invested a lot of money in my business this year. Like, I did masterminds, coaching programs, all kinds of investments. I spent a lot of money. But that was actually one of the best things I could do. And I think that was one of the things that is really pushing me and moving the needle for me. So just consider, what is it for you? And if you love this podcast, please leave us an iTunes review. 5 stars, if you will. I would love that. I look forward to hearing your results. See you soon. The Resilient by Design podcast is produced by Vera Marquez, edited by Abby Circatella, and hosted by yours truly, Rebecca Hay.